having the honor to have this conversation with Alfonso Cuarón. I don't have as much fancy and elaborated introduction as Talal. We'll go for a more spontaneous one. When the festival asked me to moderate these conversations, of course I said yes. Then I thought, oh my God, I have only 1 week and I need to see all of Alfonso Cuarón's film. No, which is, of course, very exciting, but I thought, oh, there should be so many films because of all the recognition that he has. I've only seen Children of Man, Gravity, and Tu Mamá También. And then I said, okay, probably I will have to see other 10 or 15 films in 1 week, but I will do it because I will enjoy it. And then I checked the filmography, and I found that there aren't so many films, which is absolutely fascinating, because in very little number of films you establish yourself as one of the most acclaimed directors and one of the most fascinating directors in our current era. And also, when I looked at the films, they are so different one from the other. Of course, probably there are some common links. But the first question I had that came to my mind is, why not much more films? As a fan, I'm frustrated because I have to wait each time 6 years, 7 years for a new film. And if I was you, with the credit that you have, the talent that you have, I'll be probably shooting every year. But I'm saying this now, but probably I won't.
Wow, I often wonder why I don't do more films. And there are many answers. The short one is I'm lazy.
I'm too.
Okay, but it's not entirely true. It's just, I like life. I like the gaps in between. I love cinema, but I also love not doing cinema. You know, I love just life apart from film. And I think that's part of it. The other thing is, I guess it takes a while for me to, I wish I was more prolific. And I see many of my friends that are so prolific that they do one film after the other. And I admire the amazing imagination they have. Because, yes, I often think of projects, but then once that I start thinking more of them, I realize that, well, if I don't do that, it doesn't matter. Or if I don't do it, somebody else will do something better in that verge. You know, so for good or for ill, I said, well, I want to do something that only I can do. If it's good or bad, but it's only that.
So maybe this is why all your movies seems so different by one to another?
That's a flaw probably of being more a cinephile than a filmmaker. You know, I grew up loving so many films and so diverse that I was inspired by all of them. And yeah, and I also, once that I do something, I kind of get bored of that. I need to explore something completely different. I feel I want to be challenged. I tend to want to do films, and that's why it take a while, because I tend to like films that I have no idea how to do them. You know, so if I can be thinking for 2 months in a project, I'm excited about the possibility of a film, but then I realize that I know how to do it, then I psychologically start getting like less excited.
So you think that this job is also a very lonely job in a way, a job that like you have to make some sacrifice in a way, you know, to be a director, to be fully into cinema in a way. Even in between times, even in between the moment you're not shooting, you know, watching movie, being dedicated to movie. How cinema is part of your life when you're not like preparing and writing and shooting?
Yes, it's present all the time. it's almost like a curse, a beautiful curse. You know, is that you always, I like to watch films, and I want to keep on watching, keep on what is happening, the new stuff that is happening. I love to revisit the old films, and I tend to do it very often. But I like to see what's happening now, because as a filmmaker, I think that if you're not connected to what is happening, you become irrelevant. And I see many filmmakers I admire in which there are cautionary tales, in which they didn't connect with the new, when what was happening in the world and in cinema, and their later films, they start becoming more irrelevant. So you need to connect with the new generations, because that's where the new masters are. You know, there's only so much that you can get from the old masters, and it's important to connect with the new masters.
Do you have like some directors today, young directors, that you particularly admire, besides us?
Well, of course, the two of you. That
Since 20 minutes ago, he became our fan.
Well, yeah, but I mean, of relatively young, well, younger than me, definitely, is people like, I like Robert Eggers, that, you know, he tends to have a very specific vision about what he wants to do. You know, it's
You've seen Nosferatu yet? Or?
I haven't seen Nosferatu yet, but I'm dying to see
me
it.
too.
I really, really, really want to see it. I like Ari Aster, particularly the Boo is Afraid.
Yeah.
I think it's an incredible film. Yeah, I mean, look, you're putting me on the spot right now. I'm sure that if we keep on talking for 10 minutes, there will keep on coming more and more and more names. For instance, there's a very ripe generation in Mexico, mostly of female directors, that one after the other are really, really interesting, and they have taken, as opposed to the filmmakers of my generation, the women filmmakers, they have this very particular sensitive, there was a sensibility that was very delicate, and now it's rough, it's tough, and confronting very difficult, very dark territories.
Yeah, but many of these women directors comes from the genre, also starts with the genre.
Yeah, a lot of genre, for instance. Yeah, that in the old days it was different. I just saw The Substance, for instance, and I really like it.
Yeah. Okay.
I had one question that comes to my mind. I mean, still about this time gap between one project and another. At my own scale, waiting for from one film to the other, it's always around 6 years, 5 years. This is the time, this is my creational time, but also this is the time that it takes here to finance a film and everything. And sometimes I find it frustrating, even though I also have this lazy part and I love life and I love to take my time and everything. But sometimes it's difficult because 6 years after I've had the idea and the desire to make this film, sometimes this desire, it's challenged a little bit. I don't know if you experienced this as well or not.
Oh, yes. No question. And yes, is this thing, why it takes so long is just, yeah, it has to do with financing and prepping and the frustration of process that they fall apart. You know, you have finance and then it falls apart and that kind of stuff. That keeps on happening all the time. And yeah, sometimes it's very frustrating. I have learned now to let go. In my old days, I used to be very stubborn about a project. And then eventually I learned that, okay, this is not happening, I let it go. And I move on, and sometimes some film comes back later on, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah. So you have this ability to work, I guess, in many projects simultaneously?
Can't.
Oh, you can't. Okay.
Can you?
I'm trying to, because I've lost a lot of time spending on one movie, finishing it, like 5 years. Some of my friends knows it. The editor is right here. 5 years, and like I didn't work at anything besides of it. I was obsessed of finishing this movie, and then once I finished the movie, I was like, okay, what's now? Like, I felt empty.
Yeah, but I find it so difficult to try. If one idea for me takes a while to come together, what about you?
I find it more difficult to focus on only one project than two. Not three, not four, but two. Because sometimes when I'm working on one project, sometimes things goes bad and I'm blocked on that project, but I can, switch my frustration and wipe it off and go and work on the other project, and sometimes I can advance on the other project and I feel better.
Maybe I should try to do two. Not so many. Many, I don't know. I don't know how would I put the energy to all of them.
But two, I think, okay, I can manage that. 3, 4, I think it's impossible for me.
Yeah, and he writes also for others, which is a great thing.
You write for others?
Yeah, and I enjoy that. When I'm talking about two
No,
projects...
that's fun, but the thing is, if I do that, for me, it would become a good refuge not to do my own stuff.
Yeah.
No, it's just true. It's just writing can be such a nice, peaceful process. You're on your own, taking your time, doing stuff. Nobody bothers you. Yeah. And while in your projects, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, and I noticed also that it's sometimes easier to write for others or films that others are going to direct, because I kind of have less pressure on me, because I know that's by the end it's someone else's project, but I have kind of the fun part. And also, each time I worked with someone, I wrote with someone, we ended up being very, very good friends. So, as I don't have a lot of friends, that was a way to socialize also and to find friends.
But then when you're writing for someone, can you detach yourself from not being a director?
Yeah, but sometimes not. But usually yes. And sometimes I kind of try to influence him, like, this is how you should do it. This is how you should direct it. And even he said no, but then I try to convince him. Then I try to convince him that that was his idea to do it like that. And at the end, I learned how to
you write indication, camera indication on the script.
You do?
No.
No. I'm just pulling his leg.
No.
He should do.
Yeah. But one thing you said that I think very, very interesting is that sometimes, yes, you have some project, then, they don't come up or they don't get made at the time, and then you go to something else, and then maybe later on you come back to that project. I had that feeling with Y tu mamá también. I had that feeling with, I don't know if that's right or not, but I had the feeling that, it felt like for me as first feature film, but in a good way, like a very good first feature film. I don't know if that's something that you had in mind. It's that film, the idea of that film, the desire of that film is something
Y tu mamá también is an idea that when I did Y tu mamá también was like 12 years old or so, maybe more. And it was one of the ideas that I was flirting with about committing to write a screenplay for my first feature. And I decided to do the other one. And I'm glad, because I think that I was not ready to do that film. I was in a period of my filmmaking process in which I was learning, but only learning technically, more than trying to completely commit to a language. And it was in Y tu mamá también where that process began, years later.
Yeah, I heard you saying that Mexico didn't give you all the tools to work with technically, so once you were done with techniques, you could go to something else. You felt like...
Well, it was but it was just a matter of... Because that was my process. That doesn't mean that other filmmakers follow that process for good, probably. I was, yes, a bit kind of frustrated in Mexico that there's amazing cinema. There were amazing directors of the previous generation, but technically they were kind of very poor. And with Lubezki, Emmanuel Lubezki, a cinematographer, we're always talking about the frustration of that. And through our and I can speak, I'm sure, for Chivo. Chivo is Manuel Lubezki, the DP. The Chivo and I, we had a similar process in which we were focused in form until Y tu mamá también. And it was in Y tu mamá también when the concern turned into language. You know?
And you felt it was like your first more personal movie? In a way.
I feel that is the first, let me put it this way, is as if the other one was like going to school and learning how to do films, you know, how to make them. And the other one was the first one that it was like, okay, this is something that I want to be unapologetically a film. For that, I fought for it.